Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Chad and Mel Movie Hour specifically. We are on the 9th of our 10 movie review journey of the Alien Predator universe. So we're almost to the finish line. Yes, it's been as painful for us as it has been for you. So we thank anybody that has tuned in, who's subscribed, who's liked, who's commented. If you haven't, please do subscribe. It does mean the world. But yeah, we are going to dive into David Fincher's Alien 3 this evening. Of course, Chad has a pristine copy of the VHS to make us all envious.
I don't know why my VHSs are in good condition, actually, because they're old as hell, and I actually did use them, and everything else I have is trashed.
Tell the truth. I like how it's just like Sigourney on the cover though.
Oh,
really
right.
Awesome. And
they made her a producer, so she was really a power player at this stage. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, without further ado, let's dive into Alien 3.
Great. Okay, we both watched
Cheers.
the assembly cut / special edition
right
in the last day or two, right? And
yes,
I think we
correct.
both had 100% different reactions to this, and it's funny because I've seen some other videos where people discuss it and they both have like totally opposite viewpoints, so that might be what's about to happen. But I really enjoyed it today. But so if anyone hasn't seen, there's this amazing documentary called Wreckage and Rage that is on the DVD like extras for the Alien set. So I think it's the best like behind the scenes documentary of any Alien film. Definitely because it's such a well-known fact that the production of this film was so I guess fucked up, for lack of a better term, and just all over the place and such a hot mess. So that's what makes that documentary so great, is that on the newer Blu-ray set, they put like, I guess Fox had censored it even because like it was so revealing about like how terrible Fox is as a company, like how oppressive they were on the director and like how meddling and sneaky they were. So they had them take a lot of that out to like save face. But finally the fully restored like 2.5 hour version is now on the Blu-ray set, the newest one. And so I'll touch on some things. Yeah,
it's also available on HBO. And it's also the assembly cuts, which is synonymous with the special edition, is on HBO. If you have HBO, that's where I watched it. You won't have the documentary, but you'll have the access to the assembly cut.
Which you hated.
I didn't say that, but it was 2.5 hours that I really struggled with. But I digress. Continue.
Well, I was like riveted the whole time, but I have a feeling that it's because I haven't seen it in a while. And I watched Wreckage and Rage, the documentary, right before I watched it.
Yeah.
I have a feeling a lot of people don't know about this documentary, but I'm just going to preach it to high heaven because it's so great, and it does such a great job of laying out why the film is the way it is, because it's a very problematic film. It's by no means a perfect film or even like a great film in terms of narrative and story. I'll give you that. And I think it's the fault of a lot of different people, but you had this amazing first-time film director, David Fincher, who's an incredible director. Of course, we all know that he went on to do, Fight Club and all these other amazing movies. But this was his first major film after doing some music videos, like with Madonna and some other really high-profile. One of his videos was like $10 million. So he hadn't done a feature film before, and they really tried to like strong arm him into like being their bitch, I guess, a little bit. And he hated that, and he was really trying to stand up for himself, and they wouldn't let him do anything he wanted, and they were behind schedule and way over budget, which is typical of filmmaking. But in this case, everything was like, even more so. So this film faced like every production challenge that you could think of. And they didn't even have like a set script when they were filming. They were literally like shaping it as they were going, which is never good. So if that's the main problem with this film. But I have a lot of props to give this film though. The acting in this film is incredible and the cast is incredible. In Wreckage and Rage, they talk about how like this cast could handle like anything you could throw on them, like the most, like they could go with any Shakespearean play like immediately. And I mean,
right.
It's the most competent cast you could really put together. And I think Sigourney is like at her peak as Ripley in this film, in terms of like really powerful acting. So, I mean, it has that going for it. And they did bring back Giger, but just like in Prometheus, they brought him back, but without enough time to really involve him and weren't able to use a lot that he brought. He brought like all these things to the table for this film, and they used like very little of it. But I thought the alien was interesting, the dog alien. There's a lot of really questionable special effects, like because it's not CG, but a lot of people think it's CG, but they were like rotoscoping this puppet miniature and then like blue screening it.
Rotoscoping is.
So rotoscoping is when you have a puppet that is on rods, right? So every, like the arms and legs are on rods, and that's how they're moving it. And rotoscoping just means that they go in after they shoot it against the blue screen, and they like cut out all of those rods out of the picture so that you just have the alien left and the blue screen. And all that had to be done like photochemically, because this was really before CG. So yeah, so you can kind of see a cutout around it. And the blacks in the alien, like the black colors, are always not quite the right color temperature to match its surroundings. So there's issues with the special effects for sure. But I think the alien was cool, and it was cool to see it come out of an animal for once and not a person. Yeah. And I think it's really cool that they tried to do such a gothic, like dark tone with the film. I think that's very cool. And they try to bring it back to the original, but just even darker, like in tone. And the gore effects and stuff are really cool. I think that all that like really works. And yeah, so those are some of my thoughts on watching it. There's some monologues in it that work really well. Like the acting is awesome in this film. And but yeah, I think what could have been is so much better than what we ended up with. Like if you see that documentary, they go through all these early scripts, and Fox was just like, oh, those are great, but like, let's just take out all the great ideas and just simplify everything to like save money, and which is never good. And I think just trying to save money, and they took away all the really experimental, interesting ideas, because there were so many. And originally it was going to be monks and not prisoners. So it's going to be monks on a wooden planet, and I think that would have been so cool. And they were going to have a lot of hallucinatory imagery and imagery that likened to some surrealist painters and stuff, and some, a lot of like old world imagery and stuff like that. And Sigourney was supposed to have all these hallucinations and stuff. It just could have been. It could have been so cool. I know, it could have been really, really interesting. But I do like what we got. But obviously it's mired with all these different problems. But if you notice that it's totally different than the first two, because Fincher shot from all these low angles, which I think was really cool. He is such a gifted filmmaker, and he has such an eye for just filmmaking, obviously, but I mean, you really see it on this film, because that's the only thing he really controlled, was like obviously the direction and the look of it. Yeah. So.
And you had mentioned that they brought Giger back to work creatively on this film. Remind us what year Alien 3 came out, and what year did Giger pass?
Giger passed in 2014. This film was released in 92.
97? 92.
92.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I was confusing it with Resurrection, because I saw Resurrection in high school. Okay.
No, 92, and Resurrection's 97. Yeah.
And they brought Alec Krillis and Tom Woodruff back creatively. Didn't they work on a previous, was Alien, didn't they work on creatively?
Well, it was produced by Gordon Carroll, David Giler, and Walter Hill, who are with the franchise.
Right, okay.
The original story was by Vincent Ward. Again, it had a bunch of changes and a bunch of script changes.
And it's still based on the original, it's an extrapolation or whatever of the original imagination of Dan O'Bannon, who we know and love, and
Dan O'Bannon.
Ronald Shusett. But yeah, I mean, I, you know, looking back at the movie in retrospect and knowing that it's a David Fincher film, like, you can have a greater appreciation for it now. My memory, I remember going to see it at the AMC at Downtown Disney, which is now Disney Springs, when that was like the most badass movie theater on the planet, because it had 12 theaters, and they had the life-size, much like you have in your home, the Xenomorph, but it was suspended above like the concession stand, and it was just like a huge event, line around the door, you know, people bought all their tickets in advance. It was like, we're finally getting another Alien, and I just remember it being packed and being like, expectations were really, really high, and I think everyone that saw that movie when it came out in the theaters left more or less disappointed, because I don't think it knew how to, they didn't know how to market what they had created. What I noticed in watching the assembly cut or the special edition, which I had never seen before, last night when I was doing my homework, I knew this before, but it was reinforced watching the 2.5-hour version versus the 1.5-hour version, that David Fincher and the entire production was asking a lot of the audience with this story. They were asking for a lot of trust. It's a complete tonal shift, which to the franchise's credit has served its well, because you get something new every time, whether you like it or not. But this movie was asking a lot of an audience, I think.
And not just any audience.
You have an almost...
an American audience who had already been conditioned for action films.
And you have an almost exclusively British cast with extraordinary actors. I mean, you have Charles fucking Dance, you have Peter Postlethwaite, like, you have Charles S. Dutton, which we have to talk about Charles S. Dutton, but you're putting things that there's no Giger in this movie at all to me, aside from the Xenomorph. Like, there's nothing Giger about the sets. They're very sterile, they're very minimal. They're not biomechanical at all. And you have Sigourney and a bunch of Y chromos, as they call them in the movie. She's in a male prison. And it's just a completely singular narrative and dynamic. And I love Alien 3. The assembly cut challenged me, so we can talk about some of the differences, but
well, it's interesting to see it as more as like a reference, right, instead of just like a finished product, because I think fans were like, oh, this is the finished product we've always wanted when we got this version released on DVD and stuff, but I don't think we're ever gonna have like a truly idealized Alien 3, because they just couldn't shoot it. And but yeah, I think the fact that it followed Aliens, and Aliens was such like a roller coaster ride and such an action film, you almost just couldn't make mainstream America happy. The film did really well in like Europe and stuff, where I think they're more interested in like darker gothic like tones. And I think America just wanted like that summer blockbuster, because that's how they hyped the film. They promoted it as, they even promoted it as almost like being on Earth, because they say in the trailer, on Earth, everyone can hear you scream with an egg hatching. So it kind of, it's so misleading in a bunch of different ways. And I think the marketing was stupid. And I think that the film company was like really just terrible and stupid throughout this whole process. And they botched the film in almost every way possible, and then didn't market it right. So,
Right.
but I think the film, it's a really good experience watching it this far removed from that release, you know, because you can be more objective and see it as its own thing. I really like how they took it back to like one alien and made it more like scary and more of a horror film instead of just like a thriller, an action film with all the guns and stuff. And
I agree. And I think the Xeno in this movie is particularly ominous, and he does appear much taller, he or she appears much taller in stature than what we got with like the many drone worker ants in Alien.
Right.
So it was much more intimidating.
I noticed too when I watched it this time that the coloring on it kind of changes from scene to scene. Sometimes it will look more like gray and sometimes it looks more brown. So, and you can really tell the difference between the miniature one of it, I think, and the actual man in a suit.
Oh yeah.
So there's definitely some issues there, but
the puppet is really obvious, you know.
Yes,
and
of course.
Because the puppet, the puppet version is when it's on all fours or in its dog form.
Right.
But when he stands up on all twos and you see the dorsal vents, I mean, he's so sexy. I can't get enough. And where like the teeth in the jowls and the tendons in Aliens were very like transparent, in Alien 3 they were almost like chrome. It was very metallic to me, the mouth anyways. But I don't want to get too far ahead. I do want to say that I loved that the movie was scored. I loved how the movie was scored, and I didn't realize until watching last night that it was scored by Elliot Goldenthal, who has written and produced my favorite score of all time, which is the score for Interview with a Vampire.
Oh, cool.
So that was just like a fun fact.
He did an awesome job.
We are 200 years in the future from Aliens. Am I wrong on that?
I'm not sure.
I had it somewhere in my notes, but you know, after 3 pages of notes, it got lost. I think they tell her it's 200 years in the future. I have it somewhere.
Are you sure that's not Alien Resurrection?
Oh shit. No, you're right. I'm sorry. See, this is no. So I don't know how many years have passed.
I don't know either. So, moving on.
Okay. Moving on. So we're on planet Fury 161.
Yes.
It's an ore mining planet. It's a prison for exclusively for men. Now, I want to just reiterate, the original cut of this film I have no qualms with, like none. I may have had them like back in the day when it came out, but in retrospect, like I think this movie is a masterpiece. The assembly cut, on the other hand, offers up some subplots and some different a completely different origin story for the Xenomorph life cycle.
Right.
I texted you last night on Instagram when the opening credits came on, and it's a close-up. Literally, the film opens with a close-up of what looks like a Xenomorph mouth, and they pan back, and you see that it's actually some sort of fly.
That's Resurrection.
I give up.
That's Resurrection too.
I'll edit that out. Wait.
So are you sure you don't just hate Resurrection? Because I hate that film.
No, I actually like Resurrection. No, okay, sorry. Okay, I'll edit that out. But the assembly cut, like the opening credits, that's right. They have like these really quick cuts, and it's like really ominous. Which is
the same in both versions until you get to until it crashes. I think throughout there's a ton of changes, but when she finally crashes on the planet, you see a lot more shots of like the beach and them rescuing her with oxen because now it bursts out of an ox, and they try to fill in a lot more plot holes about like how they trap the alien, and then how there's a guy that's like in love with the alien, and he ends up freeing the alien, and he feels like he had a religious experience meeting the alien, and he
Mhm.
wants to be a follower of the alien. Of course, the alien just kills him right away. But this whole
Right.
subplot was not in the theatrical version.
Right.
And there's also a few more shots of the alien and stuff, which are cool.
Yeah.
They extended
But
the scene.
what threw me
Mhm.
though is they in the theatrical version we know that the Xenomorph is born of a Rottweiler.
Right.
Yeah, like a dog. His name is
Mhm.
Spike. So it maneuvers more like an animal, specifically like a dog.
Right.
Whereas with the assembly cut, it comes out of an oxen.
Which
And
was
then they
how
don't. Oh, go
it
ahead.
was all the way it was supposed to be an oxen. So
Right.
even when they filmed the whole film, they filmed it knowing it was an oxen. And then they shot in post, they shot the Rottweiler scene. So
What a mess.
actually, yeah, it was a total mess. But actually, all the time you're watching the film, it was intended to be an oxen, not a dog. Even though it does kind of move more like canine than
Right.
like a large oxen or whatever,
Yeah.
ox, whatever.
Because
But
in the assembly cut they show the guy his dog was his pet Spike like disappearing, but then they just don't address like that there was a dog at all. It was just like, oh, he's calling out for Spike, and then it's like, okay, well,
when
sure.
before he gets sucked in the fan,
Into the
he's like,
vent,
Spike,
yeah.
is that you? And you're like, what's Spike?
Who's Spike? Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's
well,
oh god. Yeah.
Yeah. I do love
But the gore when he gets sucked in the fan, that's like a really amazing scene. It's very intense. Yeah.
The movie gives you the opposite of what you mentioned in the Aliens review, where Cameron gave you a very optimistic tone and mood.
Right.
This Fincher's like having none of that. I mean,
and it was very
deliberate from the opening credits. Yeah, it's tension, it's gore. And you have the tension of the alien, obviously, but I think what's masterful about this film, and also it passes the Bechdel test, is that you have Sigourney as Ripley yet again in badass mode, but not only is she dealing with the threat of the alien, she's dealing with the threat of being the only woman on a planet full of rapists and murderers. So you have this really well-written situation that's just, it's designed to just create tension, and it works, and it's like the military green like color scheme, like her being in the tank top and underwear in the opening scenes when they rest, it's like a callback to Alien. Like there's a lot that is perfect about this,
and she's like at peak physical beauty in this film, if I can say that.
Cheekbones are like, what?
And the fact that she has a shaved head, it's such an interesting look, and she wears it so well, and she's just so gorgeous. Like there's a lot of close-ups of her that are just beautiful. And
when you saw her in the theater, like when the audience saw her shave her head, that was so like shocking for, I think, its time.
I think it's like iconic. I
don't think anybody saw it coming. Oh, it is iconic. Yeah.
And maybe audiences didn't realize that at the time, but that's really iconic. And like, I mean, they really went for a style and a look. And
they really leveled up Ripley, like to your point, they leveled up her narrative. They gave her great writing, dialogue to work with. They gave her great actors to partner with.
She's really thoughtful, and she's given like the time to explore as an actress. And oh yeah,
I love it. I love that Charles Dance is in this. Most people might know Charles Dance as Tywin Lannister from Game of Thrones, but long before that, he was the bad guy in Die Hard, and of course, he is Ripley's companion / lover / prisoner. He's not really a prisoner; he's kind of there voluntarily. But anyways,
and his death is like my favorite scene in the film. My favorite scene in the whole film. Yes, because that's when he gets killed by the alien in the infirmary when he's tending to Ripley, and then the alien comes right up next to her, and you're like, what's gonna happen? And it leaves her alone. But not after that iconic shot of it and Ripley like that close together with like the mouth coming out of the other mouth, which I think is one of the most iconic and memorable like imagery in the whole series.
Oh, absolutely. That is
very powerful.
That shot, along with, I would say, which we, for some reason we have not brought this up, but the tagline, "No one can hear you in space, no one can hear you scream," is probably like one of the greatest taglines in cinema history, and it's brilliant marketing, and like that tagline is, to me, more exciting than the assembly cut, like altogether. Like the assembly cut was dry for me. I struggled. But that, and then the shot, to your point, of the Xeno in the infirmary coming right up to Ripley while she's sweating and crying and shaking, and just recognizing that she's pregnant and she's part of the family. The drool, the just like, that was an itch that they scratched just right.
There's a shot of it right before the close-up that we're discussing where it's approaching her, and it's like obviously like a puppet that's like blue screened in. That's so unfortunate because it kind of takes you out of the scene for a minute. Because it's really dated special effects now, but then the glory shot, the close-up of its mouth and her face, is obviously a practical alien that looks perfect. I mean, looks so real and good, and it operates so well in that scene. But there's a ton of special effects issues with this film. Ironically, that the first two did not have, even though they're older films. I mean,
do you think it's because they were simply trying to up the game, like VFX wise, and just
I think they were in like uncharted territory a little bit, and they were going to try something different, and they didn't want to do. They were talking about how they didn't want to do stop motion because it's so jerky, obviously, and so they were trying this as like a somewhat newer technology where you can be on the set and move the camera and record the movement, and then scale it down and program with a computer the camera to do the same movement at like 1/3 scale with the puppet later, and then composite them photographically. So some of it was like cutting edge at the time, but it just has really not aged well. And people even think it's CG. There are a couple things that are CG in this movie, which I can outline. The shadows of the puppet, of the miniature puppet, they did the shadows with computer graphics, and there's one split-second shot of the alien's head cracking that's like not even it's like maybe like a second long, if that, at the very end when it dies, and you see it crack, and it doesn't quite match up with the other shots around it. That's like a full CG head. So very minimal CG. Most of it is actually just like puppet work and like what you would say green screen now, but it was blue screen back then.
Right.
And then they figured out actors wear a lot of blue, so let's make it like neon green.
So the color scheme, I don't know what the technical terms are for like the use of color in a film, but like, my God, does it work? I just love it. Like the greens, the browns.
And the sets are gorgeous too. I think they're really like gothic, and they're very there's a little bit of like Art Deco in there as well, and I just think they really put you in where you're at. I mean, they really ground you in this place. And even like the matte paintings and stuff, which I'm a huge fan of matte paintings. So cool. I think those really hold up well. Paintings anymore? Digitally. We do, yeah. I mean, they do. They just, draw them in computers and composite them in computers instead of drawing them with paint and then photochemically doing it. But it's basically the exact same thing. Every movie has matte paintings now. They're just digital. But
got it.
Anytime they want to change how the sky looked or add buildings around people, which is almost in every movie. But
so can we talk just for a second about Charles S. Dutton? Because to me, he, next to Ripley, is such an unexpected character, number one. and just
So great.
masterful. To me, like Oscar level acting. And you know, the
Yes.
only other thing I remember Charles S. Dutton growing up was the Fox TV show Rock, which was like one of the first like all black like family sitcoms on TV. Like obviously Cosby in different world, but like
Chris
you know,
Rock,
in the 90s and whatnot. And he hasn't done much, if anything, in the last 20, 30 years.
True.
Wait, what? 20 years. Um, but my God,
True.
rewatching this made me miss him so much. And he plays Dylan, who is a prisoner. He admits to Ripley that he is a murderer and a rapist of women, but he's also a man of faith. He's the unofficial clergyman that keeps all of the other guys in check by reminding them of their vow of celibacy and keeping them on the straight and narrow, especially when a woman shows up. And he's just got some of the best dialogue. Like,
oh yeah.
I mean, he even says when he's preaching, like, he uses the term angry God when he's quoting scripture, and it reminded me of the documentary Furious Gods and just the overarching theme of the Xeno and the alien being this angry God that we cannot contend with. And I can't.
He's amazing.
I literally can't.
Yeah, his monologues are incredible in this film. The one where he's eulogizing as Newt and Hicks are cremated, and then there's one where he's galvanizing people toward the end of the movie, like, how do you want to go, standing or on your knees begging?
Yes.
And it's like so powerful, and I'm like, yes.
Right here on my notes.
Almost in any other alien film, you don't have dialogue like that. It's that powerful.
Yeah, awesome. Like when they're about to contend, and when they've accepted that they're gonna die, and they either can protect the Xenomorph from going back to Earth, which is why there's an Earth reference. Are you gonna die in You're gonna die in service. You want it on your feet or on your fucking knees. I've never been a beggar. Like,
just so good.
It's just too good. It's
so damn good. And
mean,
he's great in it, and I think he is an underutilized actor. You know what's interesting is when I was watching the assembly cut.
And he's the only man of color in the film. He's the only man of color in the film.
No.
Or maybe the only man of color, like
in the main cast, yes.
In the like white prison, yeah, okay.
Right, in the main cast. There's a couple others that are like very on the outskirts. They're not like the main players for sure. I was wondering in this assembly cut when I watched it this go around, I was wondering if maybe he really wasn't as much of a murderer and a rapist, because he never makes good on that in this film as a character.
That's true.
And even when she's like, kill me, he can't kill her. And he can't make good on his promise to kill her.
Right.
And something about him betrays that. I think it's almost a front to all the other prisoners there to sort of lead them, and just a survival mechanism. And it does seem like a bit of a front. You get the sense that there's this like layered person, that there's a lot more to it than the surface.
Yeah, I think you just blew my mind, because that had not occurred to me, but that might very well be true, and just more layers. I mean, who's I mean, and the cafeteria scene when Ripley, after she shaves her head and she first walks into the mess hall and literally like enters into the space, the safe space that these men have for themselves, and she just takes up space. I mean, she sits down next to she sits next to Dylan, and she sits next to like some other random guy, and like you can see how like anxious they are, and she literally says, I guess I must make you nervous.
Yes. Yeah. I love that line so much. He says, lady, I'm a murderer and a rapist of women, or something like that, and then she says, well, I guess I must make you nervous, which is like so fucking badass. I love it.
Oh, so badass. I mean, there's just no shortage of great dialogue. And there's this theme of God in the film, obviously, because these men are using some form of, as they call it in the film, fundamentalist Christianity to keep themselves in check.
Right.
And
which Ripley and her, the guy that she ends up sleeping with, Charles Dance, they both don't buy into it.
Right.
So I guess they're more.
Nor does the
superintendent.
The superintendent, like the warden's number 2, that 85. That's supposedly the dumb guy. Right. But yeah, I loved this movie when I first saw it. It was obvious to me that it was very like girl power, before like we had another term for it, at least little girls. But now, like rewatching it, whether you're watching the theatrical cut or the assembly cut, just this idea of like the woman as disruptor, and the way Fincher and this entire production just kind of subverts every gender role. Like nobody is playing to traditional gender roles. I just love that.
So true, and it's authentic girl power because she negotiated herself to be one of the producers of this film, and she had say in almost everything to do with this film, and her role in it. I mean, as a businesswoman, she really shined at this moment, I feel, in her career, and was given a lot of control and power. So, I mean, she was really given her due by this point in the franchise. And I think that's really powerful too. So the on-screen image and the behind-the-scenes really match in that regard.
Yeah.
And I was gonna tell you, in the documentary, the guy that plays 85 said that when he started the role and preparing for the role and started filming, that wasn't a part of his character. And then they rewrote it and they dropped it on him, and they're like, oh, by the way, they're all gonna make fun of you now and call you 85. And he's like, well, I had to like forget everything and totally rethink my character. So like this production was such a hot mess in terms of the writing and the studio interference. But yet, his
character still works. Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I guess it's a testament to him as an actor.
It just goes to show you how the actors were undermined and the whole production kept being undermined. But
what else? So yeah, this theme of like God returning. I don't know which one of the prisoners said it, but they literally say we're waiting for God to return.
Right.
Dylan, Charles S. Dutton's character, says, just because they're religious doesn't make them any less dangerous. Just the fact that you have two villains in this movie. You have the alien and you have the men, which the men eventually become adversaries, which is fantastic. But I mean, there's just so much that.
Yeah, and you have the corporation, and Lance Henriksen is so great in this movie. Well, you don't get Hicks or Newt. I almost combined their names there. You don't get Newt or Hicks, but you get Lance Henriksen and Bishop, and he's incredible. And I just think that if it had become like a family film where it was Hicks and Ripley, I just want it to be Ripley. Yeah, I'm not that interested in that. To me, that is too optimistic. It's kind of interesting that the franchise took that turn to optimism, and then so when David Fincher was directing Alien 3, he almost never got his way. But in one area where the studio really gave him, every once in a while, the studio would really give in to him and say, okay, this is very important to him. We're not going to win on this. We're going to give him this. And one of those times was, it has to be completely dark in tone, completely. Right. And they went hard. Yeah. And he was right, I think. I mean, you can't just follow it up with another action movie, or it's always going to be second fiddle to that how great Aliens was in that regard.
Yeah, and speaking of Weyland Yutani, what's really funny about Alien 3, which I really never paid attention to, is literally everyone in the movie is wearing Weyland, like they're wearing their own merch, like they're all wearing like the Weyland Yutani like shirts, like you know, under their like fatigues or whatever, like
in Alien 3 or
in Alien 3, like if you look at the back of Charles Dance's shirt, it's got the YW. Like a lot of the prisoners have it. It's subtle, but also this is the first movie of the 3 that had come out up until that point where you get any Yutani, because it's all been Wayland, but this movie has like a lot of Japanese writing on the inside of the prison. And then
when they come to the planet,
you have the Japanese gentleman.
And they look so cool when they come.
So cool.
Just the outfits and everything. Yeah.
You get to see Lance Henriksen come back as Bishop.
I have a question for you.
Yeah, please.
Okay, why do you think Lance Henriksen... Okay, they go through a lot of trouble to prove that he's human because, like, he gets this huge ear injury and you can see he's bleeding and it's human blood. It's not the white stuff.
Right.
And he says he's human. We don't believe him at first when he confronts Ripley at the end. But then he gets this injury and he's like, see, I'm human. Fuck, or whatever. And he's bleeding. So why doesn't he look any older? Because this is obviously years after the second one. And I'm sure when they had the second one, the android had been out for a while.
You think that's just a continuity error? Or
I mean, don't you think he should have looked a little older if he designed that android? And then now we're so many years into the future. I don't know.
More than a little bit older. Yeah.
He looked really crack-faced. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
but
he's
great in the movie.
Mm.
And he kind of has two roles. Like he plays his old android self when she plugs him in briefly, which is so cool. I think that's like just enough of the old film.
Yeah, but like even in my opinion, for its time when the movie came out, the practical effects of the Bishop droid being plugged back in so Ripley could download, it was really bad. It looked bad.
No, I thought that was really good.
I thought it was horrible. Like because you could see like the skin flap from where he was decapitated didn't look like, oh, this is the droid that's been decapitated. It looked like Lance Henriksen is sticking up from under a table, and this is like what's covering the table. Like
I disagree.
Okay.
I thought that scene was like one of the more believable special effects. I don't know why. I get that it kind of looks fake, but like an android cut up wouldn't look like human. I mean, it would look kind of fake. You know what I mean? I think it was fully animatronic. He wasn't actually there on set.
Oh no shit.
Yeah, it was fully animatronic.
It was full. Yeah. Okay. I have respect
So he did the voice for it, and they did a lip sync to his voice. So, yeah.
Okay.
It's full.
I didn't know that. That changes it.
Yeah, so knowing that there's no human in it at all, and it was completely animatronic, that's really good special effects. Lance
Henriksen under a table like this, and then just like.
It was in the first film. They had Ian Holm, under the table as Ash.
Okay. Right.
And that's very obvious, but.
Redact everything I just said. Retract it from the record.
No, I liked that scene, and then you have the rape scene with her, which is kind of cringy, which is weird.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not terrible, but I don't know that we needed that really. But
I think there was enough tension knowing she was surrounded by rapists where they didn't need like her to be.
It's weird because they try to rape her and then she just goes back to like living among them like nothing happened. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And yeah. It's
weird.
It's not the best. It felt like a little bit of like an unnecessary like.
Right. Shock value.
We get it. Like she could get raped at any time. Like we get it.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I think like I even had in my notes like because rape is such a real threat from the men, what's interesting, and we talked about this in Alien and some of the previous videos, is like the concept of male rape vis-a-vis facehugger over here.
Yeah.
So, they get their just desserts because in the end, they're getting a little rapey moment from facehugger.
What's so interesting is that even though she has that constant threat of rape, she she never gives into it. She never lets it have power over her. And in fact, she allows herself to continue to be a sexual being with the character Charles Dance, even though there's this perceived dampening down on her femininity of allowing to be sexual via the threat of rape.
I love
we're
you.
so insane.
You just read my mind. I have in quotes when she's in the infirmary with Charles Dance. I forget his character's name. You're attracted to me, and like she just wants to get laid. It's like she's in her power the entire time.
She's totally open and free with her sexuality, which is amazing. And she's very free with it. I mean, she's very matter of fact about it. It's not, she doesn't have all the hang-ups, and I mean, we're so far in the future in the series.
Right.
But yeah, she definitely doesn't have any hang-ups around it, and I just think it's cool to see her strength like never waver. Like they don't have that scene where she's like second guessing herself, which is kind of cool.
Right.
I guess after everything she's been through, she's like, I'm not letting these guys like take away my humanity.
This is literally her third rodeo. Like she's having none of it. And I wanted to talk a little bit about terminology because we talked about this in Aliens, how sometimes they're called droids, sometimes they're called synthetics. They prefer to be called artificial people, which is how we will refer to them. It's 2020. We're not here to dead name droids. But in Alien 3, they use the word robot. The prisoners call, or somebody calls it robot, which I found interesting. But it's also,
remember that.
There's this scene when she is plugged into Bishop's head to download the data from the crash of the shuttle. The fact that he basically says to her, I hurt. He literally says, I hurt, and like he asked to die, which is
it's so great.
It's so moving, and it's like a testament to what has come before and what will ultimately come with David and Prometheus and Covenant, and what's happening in the real world, that we need to have a little bit more respect for our AI, because if you feel pain and it's real to you, then it's fucking real.
And she treats him with dignity too in that moment. She gives him the choice of wanting to be disconnected or not, which I think is a special distinction.
And the other term that is new in this movie is that of dragon. The one prisoner that's in the subplot in the assembly version that sees the dragon, which he refers to Xeno as a deity. Dragon is a term that the prisoners use quite often in this film too. Dragon and beast. When
which
describing.
Are both terms that you could imagine someone might that might come to mind for someone that has no prior knowledge of the alien, but just sees it and just thinks and is more spiritually inclined,
especially because they're religious,
so they're just like, it's a basis of comparison,
What else? We get a lot more little mouth action in this movie, which I was here for. We get little mouths come out and play.
Yes, I love it. I love it.
I love the blood.
I love the gore. I think there's like just enough of that. You know what I mean? There's not too much gore, which as I get older, I kind of lean away from. But there's like the right amount. Like it's done so well.
I love gore. Oh, give me gore all day.
They got the color of the blood right, and that was important to the director of this film on the set. So David was like very particular about the blood be like dark enough, because in real life, fresh blood is pretty dark, I guess. I don't know, but it looks so much more real to me than most, like 90% of the films out there. This blood is like so visceral and dark, and like
it is.
Oh, it's beautiful.
And the way, especially when you watch the assembly cut, which the way that the Xenomorph kills and feeds is nothing like how I imagine an oxen does.
Well, this is the first time we see it eat.
Right, and so we see it feed, but I mean, when it feeds like a dog, because it's on all fours and it's like gobble, gobble, gobble.
Mm.
But I wrote in my notes, like, to me, I got a lot of vampire vibes, because you get a lot of Xeno coming down from the ceiling upside down, right? And then
Yes,
he
very
puts
gothic.
his little mouth through the back of the skull.
Yes.
And then you get a lot of blood splatters, and there's just like a lot of red. It felt very vampiric to me.
Yes, it's very gothic. I love all the religious imagery. I think that was like the perfect thing to amp up in these films at this stage, is like the style, the religious imagery, the gothic, the dark tones. I mean, they definitely went in the right direction in that regard.
Yeah. I did notice the scene, which is also an iconic scene, where Ripley's obviously sick and she goes into the med bay scanner to find out what the fuck is wrong with 85, and we obviously realize she's preggers with a queen.
Yeah.
Because somebody came through and gave her a little sexy face moment in the night on the ship, which is ultimately what killed Hicks and Newt. May they rest in peace. But she's pregnant. But my point is that med bay scene and like just the whole vibe of that is like Prometheus clearly took from that. When Shaw gets in the med bay, when she's pregnant with the deacon in Prometheus, like that whole like scene was clearly
there's so much
taking
that's
a page from
reused in those films. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not mad about that.
I am.
Okay. Well, tell us why.
No, I think it works in Alien 3, but for them to reuse reusing the extent of themes and scenes that they do reuse and plot points, it's just ridiculous, which we've already talked about that in Prometheus and Alien Covenant. But you're right. I mean, I'm always discovering new things like, oh, they stole that from this. I mean,
yeah. I was always, maybe I guess unconsciously aware of this, but upon doing my 3 pages of homework last night, it was abundantly clear that Alien 3 has absolutely zero engineer mythology to it, which is another departure from the previous 2 films. So it is completely singular in that way. Am I missing anything engineer-wise that I overlooked?
Well, just remember that they weren't engineers yet. There was only the
space jockey.
Only the space jockey and the derelict ship.
Right.
And
that's
then
what
engineers.
I meant.
But yes, I see what you're saying. With the derelict croissant ship and everything.
It is a croissant.
Yeah, because they call it that. Ridley calls it that.
When did she call it a croissant?
Ridley calls it that. Ridley.
Oh,
Scott.
Ridley.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But I don't know. Why does he call the alien the big chap? You know, it's those English things, quirks. But yeah, you're right. But I guess because they're not on the same planet. In Alien, they're on LV-426, and then in Aliens, they go back to the same planet. And they only show the derelict ship in the special edition of Aliens, not the theatrical one. So technically, the one that most people saw, was the theatrical version. So that does not have any derelict ship in it at all.
One of the things that I meant to look up, but I just totally didn't have the time, is the name of the planet that they're on, the prison planet, is called Fiorina. But Fury's a nickname. It's like Fiorina, and I didn't have time to look up if there's any mythology or meaning behind the name Fiorina.
I'm sure there is, actually.
I have only just like a couple more notes, but you have, woman as disruptor in this movie. You have feminism. It's not shoved down your throat. It's just so well done. And then you have
when the superintendent is giving her all the shit and he doesn't believe her and she's just like, oh, fuck this guy.
Yeah,
and they're all like 10 steps behind her, Yeah.
But when she goes, when she realizes she's preggers, and then she realizes because she's pregnant, daddy is not gonna fuck with her, and then she goes looking for daddy.
Yeah,
Like, that's
so
just
great.
amazing. And
Isn't
then
that a great
she
scene?
says, I mean, okay, I can't. She says, I'm part of the family, quote unquote. Like, where are you when I need you? I'm part of the family. And I love that when she's talking to Dylan, when she realizes she's pregnant, she's asking him to kill her so that this thing does not beget thousands of eggs and destroy the universe.
Right.
What comes to mind is, you have Ripley as mother, right? Like, you have this, she's essentially pregnant, even though it's still a chest burster. She is mother to the destroyer of the universe. She carries all of the power, just like the weight of that, knowing that, like, she is the destroyer of worlds, like, she is death because she is mother. Like, it's just like, take me down this rabbit hole because I want to go.
Right.
And it's so delicious, and I love it, and I just love it, and I just love it.
And she's so true of heart that she never once like wields that power in a negative way. She's always like, no, this has to be stopped. I mean, she never wavers in her desire to save humanity. She's a very like altruistic and heroic character in that regard.
Yeah.
She's like the archetype of a hero character.
In every way. And at the risk of sounding like a bitch, the ultimate heroine. Like, she's just, what a fucking role model. If and when my
and I have her action figure from this film that I'll show with a shaved head.
Oh, wow, that's a really good likeness.
Yep.
Arena 161. So yep. The only other, like, I have two more points, like, that I wanted to bring up. One being the thing that sets this movie apart, which you touched on earlier, is the way it's shot. Oh, let me see.
This is the dog alien.
Gorge. So gorge. Yeah, I think they did such a great job with the Xenomorph in this. And Ripley actually refers to it as a Xenomorph in this movie, which
she does.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's only in the special edition or not, but she definitely does. And this is the video game version where it's like blue, apparently. Blue and brown. And I like the Queen chestburster on the cover of the poster for this film.
So just harkening back for a quick moment about memories of this movie, I was never like a big video game person, but of course in the 80s and 90s, I think everybody was by default because Nintendo and Sega, like everybody.
Right.
So like I didn't play a lot, but I remember going to, like, Blockbuster didn't even exist yet. Like, it was called 16,000 Movies. And I remember renting the Alien 3 Sega video game, which had that exact cover of the kind of just Ouroboros green guy. And that is just like burned into my mind. And I would only play it at night in my room when it was dark. And it was such a scary fucking game. Like, it was, I mean, it was so stupid. Like, it was just basically you trying to move up ladders and shafts. But, like, it was really scary.
We had imagination back then.
It was great, but that cover just really took me back. I think that cover is iconic because that is the cover I think of when I think of Alien 3.
Definitely. And for as many problems as Alien 3 has, I almost wish everything had just ended with Alien 3, because even behind the scenes when they were approaching Sigourney Weaver to do this film, she said they approached her with two different versions of the script, one where she lives and one where she dies. Mm-hmm. And she said, well, I want to do the one where she dies because I think that this is like her 3-film arc, and I think it's like a perfect end to the series, and I don't want to come back, just kill me off. And she was so smart to say that. And then, I mean, as brilliant as she is in Resurrection, I almost just wish it had never happened. But we'll have
No,
to
I
talk
agree.
about that when we get to
And
it.
I'm curious.
You know?
I'm curious, like, what got her to come back for Resurrection, and we can save this for the Resurrection review. But
Sure.
I'm curious what it was that was the draw for her to bring her back, because I do love Clone Ripley. I think she's a great character, but also yes,
Me too.
this was closure. This is like Toy Story 3. Okay,
Yes.
stay with me. Alien 3 is to Toy Story 3 as Resurrection is to Toy Story 4. Nobody wanted it. Nobody needed it. Nobody fucking asked for it. Yes, we got Forky. Okay, yes, we got Winona Ryder as a droid. But did we really need it? No.
Probably not. You're right.
And that just means we're going to get like 80,000 more iterations of this until it's so watered down. We'll be 80 years old doing this.
Seriously.
And we'll
I think the first 3 you have to treat them as like a certain canon. There's so many different ways to think about this series, right? Because right, there's canon on so many different levels. You have Ridley's canon, which he holds true to between Alien, and somewhat holds true with Prometheus and Covenant. And there's this through line there where he's ignoring the Queen. Then you have canon of the original trilogy, where you have the ultimate character arc for Sigourney Weaver, 1, 2, and 3. And then Resurrection, it's not really her, it's like a different character. But those are the 4 original Alien films, so that's almost its own canon. And it's like, I don't know. There's so many ways to look at it, but I definitely think of 1, 2, and 3 as like the holy trilogy that I lift up above everything else for all the problems that 3 has. I think it's one of the masterworks.
I think this is a good time to remind our tens of subscribers that we invite you to subscribe and rewatch the Saga starting from Predator, because we really do, I think, I'm very proud of what we've done, dissect the various iterations of the canon and how it's evolved, and like for better or worse, like what it's become. I just think that your point about the first 3 Aliens, and Alien 3 being a contained story, albeit very different in tone, is yes, it's like the original 3 Star Wars. Like, it's its own thing. Then you get your prequels. Yes, it expands the narrative. Yes, it was the original creator's vision, but it's also very much something different. And then you have the sequels, and we won't even go there. But it's a very similar experience, like with this. Where you have Predators, and then AVPs, and then you have Prometheuses and Covenants, and we don't know what the fuck we're doing. But let's just very quickly, I want to talk about one of the last 2 things that are iconic about this film to me, which are the corridor shots, which is in the 3rd act of the film, where everyone knows they're going to die, and they're going to die in service of preventing this thing from getting off planet, because we know Weyland-Yutani's on its way. They want to capture Xeno, and they want to capture pregnant Ripley and take her back and weaponize her. And you have this amazing point of view from the alien, which has not been seen before.
Right.
Kudos to Fincher, which I think is just holds up and is amazing.
Yes.
The corridor shots are just, to this day, like.
And how they built
he achieved it, I don't know.
They built a special rig for the Steadicam where they could rotate it 360 so that the alien was running all of a sudden on the ceiling and then would run down the wall and run on the floor. And that had really never been done before in any films, to my knowledge, or, to the filmmaker's knowledge. That was like a new thing that they innovated for this film, which is really cool. So that's definitely a cool element.
Yeah, the sound effects and the fact that you get to hear and see from the Xeno's perspective, like you get to hear what the Xeno hears, like the sound effects
are really good.
Are really, really, something else.
I think the sound design is great. everyone needs to watch Wreckage and Rage, which is the behind the scenes documentary. I'm gonna say it again because there's just so much to say that has been said in that documentary that is so fascinating. But I will leave it to the documentary. You guys just got to get yourself a copy of the Alien Blu-ray anthology, and it's on there.
And Chad always comes correct with behind the scenes documentaries. If it weren't for Chad, I would never have watched Furious Gods, which is the making of Prometheus. I would not have watched Memory, which is, I want to do a whole video on Memory. That's how much that documentary.
We could.
Like,
well, Alien 3 though is like a special case because it had the most production values of any of the films. Not values, but issues.
Right.
The most production like woes of any of the films. So therefore, the story really needs to be told even more, and it's even more fascinating for that reason. I mean, it is like, I don't even know what. There's so much like gossip and. It's awesome. It's not one of those like, we're studio approved documentaries.
Right.
It's very much like, look, here's what happened, and it is a mess and it's fascinating. But I'm just gonna have to mail you a copy of it on disc, if you can play a disc.
I'm gonna continue to search for it. I'll have to look on the dark web. I'm sure it's there, but
it's hard to find. But maybe I can somehow upload it. Who knows? But it's awesome.
I think like the ending of Alien 3, again, it's like Toy Story 3. It just buttons everything up so well. And you have some iconic quotes in Alien 3, specifically coming out of Charles S. Dutton's mouth. This thing is really pissed off. Okay, that's iconic. God will take care of you now, sister. Iconic.
Sister. Yeah.
And then when Charles S. Dutton sacrifices himself in the lead works, such that Ripley can escape because he still doesn't want to kill her. He still wants her to like have a chance. He sacrifices himself in the lead works. He lets Xeno come and just eat away at him, and he says, "Is that as hard as you bite, motherfucker?" Like,
I love that so
scene. Great. And then of course comes down the lead. You really put
yourself in his shoes in that scene. It's very great scene.
What a well-realized and well-acted character. Where's Charles S. Dutton when you need him? And then, of course, lead. Xenomorph is in the lead, but then, of course, Xenomorph jumps out, and then water gets sprayed on him, and it cracks, and that's the explosion you mentioned earlier with the bad CGI. But what about Morse? Morse is the guy that pulls the lead. What had happened if Morse had died?
He's the one that screams, "I hate bugs!" at the end.
Yes, he does scream, "I hate bugs." But like, honestly, like, if Morse hadn't made it out of the corridors, like, they would have been fucked because he's the only one that can pull the. I felt like that was a little bit of like a convenient narrative device, but it's
true.
I'll let it slide.
Well,
that's it. I mean, we have Wayland. We just need to talk about Wayland, and we're done. I think.
I also want to say that they say the word fuck 11 times in the theatrical version and 14 times in the special edition.
You count
which doesn't seem like a lot by today's standards, but let me tell you, they say fuck of a lot in this film. And
we're fucking grateful.
It's like totally fucking warranted.
We fucking love it. Yeah. Is that as hard as you bite, motherfucker? Like, how baller
right?
Did go out? Like.
Also, we have to talk about how in the theatrical version, the Queen chestburster comes out of her, but in the assembly cut, Fincher did not want the chestburster to come out of her because he wanted her to die with more solitude, and he just thought it was too much over the top. Either way, the scene doesn't quite work because while the chestburster looked real, when her falling into the lava never looked real. You know what I mean?
No,
it just kind of like fades into it.
She's there and she's not. I prefer the chestburster coming out just because it's like cool, like shock value. Okay.
I want whatever David Fincher wanted.
Okay, but when you mentioned to me, because I only learned of Wreckage and Rage, the documentary, yesterday when you mentioned it to me, and have not yet been able to see it, but you mentioned, which I think is very important to relay to the audience, is that the assembly or special edition is the only special edition of a film where the original director did not have a creative hand. Okay, right. Yeah. Which I found very interesting because the assembly cut,
he has totally like washed his hands of the film, and I think he thinks it's so far gone that he doesn't even want to play on the like periphery of it at all.
But that it's so interesting to me that you really like the assembly cut then, though, because
I like it as an experiment, but not as a film.
Okay.
To me, it's like here's a bunch more footage, and this is kind of more or less more so what they were going for.
I'm with you.
Which is fascinating to me, and I still think it works well as a film. I agree that the theatrical version is like tighter, but it has more plot holes, and they kind of fill those in more with the assembly cut. And there's some beautiful shots in the assembly cut, like of the planet and of all kinds of stuff, the alien that don't make it into
I will give you all of that. I will give you all of that. Really, my grievance with the assembly cut comes down to is that it was already hard enough to get the audience to deal with an hour and a half of Alien 3 theatrical in 92. Right. If you had put out 2.5 hours of what I just watched yesterday in 1992, let alone yesterday.
No, like, I don't think anyone would have done that.
I don't, but there was so much like unnecessary, interesting but unnecessary like subplots that it was just.
I don't know. Like what?
Like Mr. I believe the alien is a dragon god. Like I thought that was interesting, but like I feel like the exposition and like the amount of time devoted to it was too much. It was like, okay, that's cool.
You almost wanted it to pay off more.
Yeah, it was just a lot of exposition and a lot of like B characters, if you will, that just I had no investment in. You know what I mean? I just was like.
Well, it's very magical that for the third time in a row they could assemble a cast where you were so interested in the main characters yet again. Because like in Prometheus and Covenant, I could almost give two shits about all of them except like a very small amount, like maybe 2 or 3 from each of those films do I really invest in. Like Shaw really had me in Prometheus. Yeah. Like, I was really invested in her. But a lot of the other characters, I was like, I ain't invested in you. Like the goofballs on the planet that were like being killed by
the 2 guys. Yeah.
Cobra-like creature and all that. And no. And her boyfriend. Anyway, I digress. But this film, the main cast is really captivating. The whole of the main. And it's a big cast.
It is, and it's when you look back on it and you realize the powerhouses that you had, it's pretty impressive. But the oh shit, I just forgot what I was gonna say.
So why do you think...
have no traditional comedic relief in this one either?
Oh, and I love it. Well, there are some funny moments, but they're like situationally funny. Right, they're not like forced comedy.
Right.
I love, and I mean, of course, they dialed all that stuff way back because to make it dark.
Yeah.
Which I love how gothic this film is.
And will you correct me? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I think it could have been even more gothic and more stylized, but the studio just didn't want to spend the money. And yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but there was no acid in this movie, was there?
There was. There was.
Where was their acid?
Okay, so the acid burn on the side of the cryo tube, the cryo sleep chamber, and then Charles Dance says, "I found an acid burn, by where the guy gets sucked into the fan." He says, I found one there, just like the one you saw at the girl's cryo tube.
Okay.
You need to tell me what's going on. So it was a plot point there.
But you're not getting a lot of it visually.
No, but the alien is never like injured to do it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Because they don't have guns.
Yeah, that's right. There's no weapons except for fire, but you do get a lot of shed skin and a lot of mucus. So you're getting a lot of like drool. A lot of drool and like a lot of goo, and then a lot of shed. I think this is one of the first times that they like built in the drooling into the actual head of the alien, whereas before they had to like apply it externally more. Really? It seems that way, yeah. What do you mean by internally then? Like they had it like pipes within the head. Oh, okay. Because it could drool just endlessly, like on, you know. Right. And it's so delicious and sexy. Every shot of the Xeno. The drool is very like clear. Beautiful. Yeah. It looks great. It's totally different from the first film where it's way more like thick. Right. You know, and it's very watery. Yeah. Yeah, and even in the queen alien, when you see her drool, it's very like it drops slowly from her mouth. Whereas in this film, it's more like water, like saliva. Yeah. It's more terrifying. Yeah. With I wish the creature had been dialed in a little bit more, because from shot to shot, it really does look different. Like. Because I think they were using like literally different heads, and they just looked too different. The coloring and the design of them it's a little jarring to me. And there's a couple shots where, ironically, in '92, it kind of looks like a man in a suit. You know what I mean? He's not very thin. He's more like a typical guy. He's not. Like, we talked a lot in Alien about the stature of the men that they found to play the alien. 7 feet. How they were, like, impossibly tall and thin. Right. And the guy that, Tom Woodruff Jr., who plays the alien in Alien 3, I've just never been impressed with him. And I don't know. I don't think fans are that, like, impressed with him. Tom Woodruff. He's definitely impressed with himself, but I don't think. You've been canceled. Yeah, bitch. Because look, you know, you're not that tall, you're not that thin, you're not that interesting, and you just act like. You're not that interesting. His acting choices with the alien too, I'm not that impressed with. I mean, I think it was pretty. He was pretty good in Alien 3 overall, but. I always think it should be taller. The alien never gets like as menacing as it is in that first film ever again. Agreed. It's like menacing and impossibly tall and thin in the first film, and then for some reason that is always sacrificed from then on out. Yeah. The sacrifices we make. I'm getting emotional now. No, well, I mean, we didn't mean to get you worked up. But your point is 100% valid. I mean, you cannot compare when you see the rearing up of the Xenomorph in the original to even Alien 3, which is a great improvement on Aliens. But your point earlier about the many variations and iterations of it in the film, like sometimes it looks really, really black and Giger-esque, and then sometimes it looks like gray-brown, and you can see like more details and maybe like is scary, you know, like it's like you can see it too clearly, and it just and then you have, you know, the puppet, or it looks whatever, small, all randomly, like it does change size, but you know what's really weird to me is that like Cameron changed the look of them for the second film when they were technically supposed to look like they came from the same people, like they were the same species of alien from the same eggs, birthed from people, but they had a totally different design. Right. I don't think Cameron should have done that at all. I'll give him the queen because that's the queen, but
You know what I mean? It's
That's
just
all you're
strange.
getting.
Why would those aliens all of a sudden look different?
I don't know. And
why it works in Alien 3 is because it comes from an animal, so you have that excuse of this is like a different genealogy.
Right. But what's still a mystery to me, because I was I'll let the audience know I was blowing up your messages last night when I was doing my Alien 3 homework. I was like, what? This doesn't make any sense. How did this happen? I didn't think she got pregnant, like on the ship, like all these things. And
I had the answers.
You had all of the answers. Blessings. That's why I'm doing this with you. But I also love you. But she has a queen inside of her. Okay, we know this because as I learned last night, if you actually take the time to watch the sonogram, you'll see the cutest little baby boo inside of her. But if you look closely, you'll see that it does in fact have the queen's carapace, you know, her beautiful skull structure. But my question is still this: are queens just randomly like impregnated? Like how? Why was a queen instead of just like another drone? Like,
well, we know.
Is there any rhyme or reason to when a queen is put in somebody?
I don't know the answer to that. I think it's more random, like how with humans you don't know if you're gonna have a girl or a boy. It's just random, but it does happen often. So
I thought you were gonna say you don't know if you're gonna have a dumb one or a smart one.
Hey, whatever. But
yeah.
No,
okay.
I mean,
yeah.
It's very similar. Like you don't know if you're gonna have a boy or a girl, but we never ask like how is it that when a boy is born, or a girl is born, a girl is born,
right?
A queen is just born every so often that's needed, I guess. Right. That's how I always thought of it. But the queen clearly has a special face hugger that has webbed fingers that's larger. And
but is that only in the assembly cut, or can people who've only seen the theatrical version see that?
I think it's only in the assembly cut.
Okay.
But they have made figures of it now and stuff like that. And I think it's only in the assembly cut. But I mean, I treat it as kind of canon. I mean, at this point.
Hey, if it's part of the original 3, it's canon. So, you know, with Alien 3, you know, you get the plot twist, not the plot twist, you get the little twist at the end where when Weyland-Yutani is coming to medevac the Xeno and Ripley to take them to Earth to weaponize them, you see Mr. Peter Weyland, or not Peter Weyland, what's Granddaddy Weyland's name? Do we know? They never say it in the film.
Charles
Weyland. Okay, but you realize that it's Bishop. It's Lance Henriksen in all his glory.
Bishop was modeled on him, right?
Right. And Ripley's taken aback. She's like, I'm not dealing with another droid right now. I'm trying to kill myself.
Right.
Stop.
She says Bishop, and he says, no, I'm not Bishop. I'm very real. I designed the Bishop model. Yeah.
Yeah, I loved that part of Alien 3. I think the audience really loved that. But
that was like a tie to it back to Aliens. That was it's satisfying whenever you tie it back to your favorite character from the previous film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what more can we? What else?
I think we did it.
Did we?
Well,
did we milk it for all it was worth?
We did. I think we met in the middle. You said the assembly cut was a little painful, but I love it.
I will say
I really enjoyed it today.
I would recommend that anybody who isn't a fan of the franchise watch the special edition. It's worth it. There's a lot of great stuff to it. It was just a little bit more arduous than I had anticipated, and
do you think that also
it really made me appreciate the theatrical Alien 3 like so much. I was like, oh, an hour and a half of this is like the perfect amount of time to be watching this story.
Well, what about how you prefer the queen coming out at the end? Do you think that's just because that's what you remember from the original version? Or do you think you just like how it looks because it's cool, because it does look cool? Or
what's option?
I don't know.
Okay, so it's definitely because nostalgia, and
Right.
it's definitely because it's satisfying. It's like, you know, it's popcorn. It's like
right.
It's a reveal. It's like, you know, she's pregnant with it or whatever. It's inside of her. You know it's there. Like, are we gonna see it? And then they let you see it, and it's like, that's fucking fantastic. And then when I didn't see it last night after 2.5 hours of my life went out the window,
if you had never seen it in the
3 pages of notes.
You know what I mean, though? If you had never seen it in the first place,
then it works perfectly because you know she's gonna kill herself. You know she's gonna die. There's no other option.
I think in the assembly cut, she takes that extra beat before she does it too. Did you notice that?
Ooh,
she kind of
no.
Yeah, she talks to herself. She takes like an extra beat before she does it, and I think that I could go either way with the chest burster, but I think for sure you needed that extra beat before she falls back because she's really preparing herself for making that sacrifice.
This speaks to like what I was talking to you last night, about, is that like when I was watching the special edition, like it was hard for me to remember because you had let me know, which I otherwise would not have, that the assembly cut has all this extra footage, obviously, but there's also stuff from the theatrical version that's been cut out, and it was really difficult for me to like recall what was missing.
What's what?
So yeah, I'll have to rewatch that last like 10 minutes and
there's that great article from Den of Geek whatever it is that I sent you that
I'll link it in the description.
It outlines them, but maybe we can link it in the description.
Yeah, that was fascinating because you had invited me to rewatch the theatrical version last night after my 2.5 hours, and it was like, I can't do it, bruh.
Hard pass.
The article was like, it laid it out, but yeah, I'll have to rewatch like that last 10 minutes and just drink in her.
I'm glad you really, really loved certain elements and monologues and scenes and stuff, even though it was long.
I truly appreciate like what I mean, it's very much the vision of an auteur, right? Like it's very much a departure, and it's very much asking a lot of the audience, but it's also inviting the audience to like don't be a popcorn audience. Like come with us and like let's.
It's asking Americans to not be American in 1992.
Essentially, yeah, and it's easier to do, I think, 20 years after the fact, but all the same, I think Alien 3, whether you watch the theatrical or the assembly version, is just a fucking masterpiece. And all of the, like, I could do like a whole hour just talking about like the feminist, like just the subtext going on just rape and women and men and motherhood and wombs and queens and destroyers of the universe.
I have another layer for you too. You could liken it to the film Dune, based on the novel Dune, which is obviously a masterwork, where David Lynch was tasked. David Lynch is one of the most genius, artistic, creative, incredible, special people alive, and he could make Dune work as one of his early films, and David Fincher couldn't make this work. It's just doomed because of studio interference and bad writing and schedules and budgets and those type of things, unfortunately. But it's so special. I think it came out maybe even better than Dune. Dune was pretty bad. the film, but
yeah.
what could have been with Jodorowsky's Dune was so incredible. And this is another what could have been type of story.
Yeah.
If only the script didn't get kind of dumbed down a little bit and stuff. Yeah.
I'll link in the description to some articles on Jodorowsky's and where you can actually watch the documentary. But
awesome.
I can't remember if it was I think it was in our Covenant video, where, or maybe it was in Aliens, I don't remember. But I had made mention of like, if I were to have somebody get their hands on this franchise next, it would be Denis Villeneuve. I'm really bad with my French accent.
Right. Yes.
But you know, he was such a, much like Jon Favreau, in my opinion, is a brilliant steward of Marvel, and actually has been of some Disney stuff, some IP as well. To me, Denis Villeneuve has been such a brilliant steward of Blade Runner. I mean, one of the most impossible things to live up to, let alone make a sequel to, that is, in my opinion, brilliant. If anyone could get their hand, and he's currently working on his version of Dune, so busy again, and he did Arrival, which we talked about, brilliant. But if anyone could get their hands on the Alien franchise, if I had my magic wand, it would be Denis. Like, let him just fix some shit.
Did I tell you that I was in like an early screening for Arrival?
I don't think so.
Yeah, in California, like many months before it came out, they did like a screening with an audience before it was finished to get opinions and stuff. So and they asked me, then you kind of apply to attend, and then if you get in, you get in, and then of the people that get in, they pick like 20 to stay after to give their opinion. So Jonathan and I got chosen to stay after and write down a bunch of stuff and discuss like what we thought of Arrival, and so I was a part of it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for your feedback, because it clearly worked.
Yeah, we liked it a lot. Imagine
how shitty that movie would have been if you and Jonathan had not gone in there and focus grouped the shit out of it.
I'm just saying it's cool that happened on a cool film, like, because you know. A lot of in LA, people go out for that all the time, and
I'm sure
you usually get like a terrible film. Like you obviously you don't really pick the film or you don't really know a lot about the film, so it was just kind of cool that film became like this interesting film. But
I did that once in Orlando in like 1990 something, and it was like at the AMC at Downtown Disney, and it was for what's the name of the movie? Well, it was a double feature, but it was before they were both finished. There was like a lot of like green screen still in it, but it was like, remember that Meg Ryan and Hugh Jackman movie, Kate and Leopold, where he's like from the past and then they fall in. It's like a rom-com, but like science fiction. It's a delightful nightmare, but it was for that, and then it was for like that. What is his name?
We've done a bunch of those too. Where
it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I mean, I just want to say that I don't want to begrudge anyone my opinions of the assembly cut. I think everybody should watch it.
It's definitely even in the state that it results, ends up being in. The assembly cut is not perfect, and it's definitely unfinished. So I feel you on that. It's not perfect for sure.
Yeah, but I don't want to discourage anyone from watching it. I think I think you should watch it. It just if you already struggle with Alien 3, you're gonna struggle.
That in the documentary, one of the main things you'll learn about Alien 3 is that the studio really did David Fincher wrong. They didn't respect him enough yet. They kind of hired him because he had a great eye, and then thought that they could make him their bitch and be like, and push everything through on him, when they're really not artists and they're really not writers, and they really shouldn't be involved to that level. but they had like all gone to their head or something. They really shouldn't have been involved to that level. But you know, it's their money and they can do whatever they want. And it was like they were out of control. And I think that if they had known that David Fincher was going to become such an incredible artist of a director, that it could have been different. But he was a first-time director, so that they had all the cards, you know?
Yeah, but also talk about like what a fucking debut. But here's my question to you, and if you like, we can close on this. Like,
sure.
What do you think it would look like, or would you want to see what David Fincher could do in 2020 with this franchise?
Not in 20. Oh, you mean if he was brought in now?
Yeah.
I think he would patently like.
Because he's become very stylized since Alien 3. Like,
I think he would do a great job. I think he would do a great job, but I don't think he would style it like he did Fight Club. It would be different. But I think he has zero interest. And I think he would just like, I think he's angry at the whole situation. And what I really wish is that they had just given him free reign when he was making Alien 3. Yeah. Like an endless budget, complete creative control. I think then he could have turned it into something awesome. But I think he made an incredible work out of a very meager script that had really good dialogue. Yeah. So like the story, the script, and the plot were kind of mediocre at best by the time it had gone through as many iterations as it had. Right. But the dialogue was good, and I think he made it work. Like visually, he made it work. But...
Oh my God! Yes, he did. He took us to church. I would just like to perhaps end on this note. We do have Resurrection coming up, which is I can't believe we're at the end of this already. Forbid. I shouldn't say already because it's actually been like almost a year, but like it feels like it's like we're at the end of this journey, until Awakenings comes out. But like we're obviously
and we have a lot of other films we want to do.
Oh my God! If you loved the Alien Predator saga, you're gonna love Desperately Seeking Susan.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
We're doing Nightmare on Elm Street. Which I am
and Desperately Seeking Susan. We have to do.
We're very diverse in our tastes and in the genres that we appreciate.
We're both highly specific and extremely diverse at the same time.
We like to hold paradox on my channel. We are all things and no things. So you're going to get Desperately Seeking Susan, and then you're going to get Nightmare on Elm Street, and then you might get some high art like Midsummer. Watch our Midsummer. But imagine... So I say all that to say Resurrection is next.
This is like a major detour, and I know we probably don't have time for it, but I'm just curious, like, have your thoughts or feelings on Midsummer like changed at all, like with time, or do you still feel the same way with Midsummer as when we reviewed it?
Well, the short answer is I feel the same way, but I also haven't rewatched it since we filmed. I've only seen Midsummer 3 times. Once at the theater, once on my own, and then once to get prepped for our review. I still hold it in extremely high regard as I do Hereditary, but why do you ask? I
feel less affinity for it now than I did probably when we filmed that. I don't know why. Maybe we should do like an updated.
We can revisit some of we can do like a greatest hits and revisit.
Yes.
Where are they now? Yeah.
Where are we now?
Behind the Chad and Mel movie hour.
Yeah.
But I would just like to, like, in my fantasy of all fantasies is like, if H.R. Giger, Ridley Scott, Dan O'Bannon, Sigourney, obviously. And I'm gonna go with Fincher on this. Were to like make a movie, an alien movie, like if you had all of the if you had the perfect confluence of all of the original creators of this mythology, like to come together. Not that Fincher was original, but like I would take him over Cameron. And have him collaborate with Ridley. Like, imagine like what that perfect storm would be. Like, imagine like what would that look like? Like,
you know
if you guys are watching this, comment below. Like, what would your perfect alien mythology look like? Like, who would be your players? Like, who would be behind the camera, in front of the camera? Like, what would the story be that you? What's the itch that hasn't been scratched?
But that's what's fascinating.
Oh, and Fassbender. You gotta have Fassbender.
That there will always be like someone's itch that wasn't scratched. Do you know what I mean? I mean, it's like, where do you draw the line? There's always I don't know. It's almost like just because you can doesn't mean you should, you know? Because
take us to church. You're right.
We have this nostalgia and this affinity, but then time marches forward. And everything changes, and even Ridley is not who he used to be, and Sigourney's not who she used to be. But the positive angle is that we will always have these works, Alien, Aliens, and Alien 3. I forgot how great Alien 3 was until I rewatched it today, and I was just so blown away by it.
So good. So good.
I was really blown away by it. And at the end, at some of the end sequences, she's actually wearing a bald cap with like hair punched into it, and it's not a real like buzz cut. It's totally fake.
Because they had to reshoots or something.
They had to bring her back and do reshoots, and she had it stipulated. She had a stipulation in her contract that if you're gonna bring me back and I have to shave my head again, you're gonna pay me $40,000. So what the studio agreed to that. But then when they wanted to do reshoots, they're like, well, it's only $16,000 to have the bald cap like expertly created and installed on her than to give her the $40,000. So they brought her back and they didn't give her the $40,000. They just paid for like a really good bald wig.
Wow.
Yes. Another great story from Wreckage and Rage.
There you go. All the more reason to watch Wreckage and Rage. I think a $16,000 bald cap is where we're going to leave it. We totally appreciate you guys watching, and please subscribe, please comment, let us know your thoughts. And we got one more to go, Resurrection, and thank you to Chad for your infinite wisdom. We love you, and
it's a pleasure.
We'll put all the links we talked about in the description box. But
and I think Alien 3 has aged well. I think it's better now than.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
unlike the other two. Or Aliens,
Yeah.
Not Alien, Aliens.
Yes. Aliens is a little more dated, but.
Well, we love you guys, and with that, we will see you on the other side.
Love ya. Bye.